Research vessel, Eternal Curiosity, hung in the darkness of space, its crystalline hull refracting starlight in patterns that would have mesmerized human astronomers, if they had noticed it. But that was the point, they weren't supposed to notice. Not yet. Chief Observer Vielon adjusted her sensory tendrils, focusing the ship's instruments on the blue-green planet below. Her species, the Arxeans, prided themselves on their methodical, logical approach to cosmic exploration. But Earth defied logic. Another statistical impossibility, her second-in-command, Kex, reported, his metallic scales shifting colors in agitation. They've reduced their carbon emissions by 15% in just one solar rotation, despite all models suggesting it would take at least a decade. Vielon's tendrils twitched. How? That's the fascinating part, research specialist Naira chimed in, her bioluminescent patterns pulsing with excitement. They did it through thousands of small, uncoordinated efforts. No central planning, no unified global initiative. Just, millions of humans making individual choices, sharing ideas across their primitive digital network, and... She gestured at the data streams, somehow achieving what our simulations deemed improbable. The observation team had been monitoring Earth for what humans would call 3 years. They'd arrived expecting to document the decline of yet another young civilization facing its first major climate crisis. Instead, they'd witnessed something unprecedented. "Show me the pandemic response data again," Vielon requested, though she'd memorized it by now. The holographic display flickered to life, showing the remarkable speed at which humans had developed vaccines for a global virus. They did this while their nations were in conflict with each other. While actively distrusting each other, Kex confirmed. Some humans were protesting the very solutions that would save them, others were hoarding resources, governments were competing instead of cooperating, and yet. He paused, mandibles clicking in what the crew had come to recognize as his expression of bewilderment. And yet they succeeded, Naira finished. Not despite their chaos, but somehow because of it. The decentralized nature of their response meant thousands of parallel attempts at solutions. Most failed, but enough succeeded to make a difference. Vielon moved to the observation window, watching as the night side of Earth came into view, its cities creating webs of light across the continents. "They're not supposed to be like this," she mused. "Young civilizations follow patterns. They either learn to cooperate and advance, or they fracture and destroy themselves. They don't thrive in chaos." "Perhaps that's why the ancient records warned about them," Keck suggested. "Remember the inscription we found on Mars? Beware the third planet, they don't know they can't." "They don't know they can't," Vielon repeated softly. It was becoming her favorite phrase. She'd seen it proven true repeatedly over their observation period. Humans attempted things that any rational species would deem impossible, and through sheer persistence and what they called innovation, a concept that seemed to combine inspiration, desperation, and often absurdity, they succeeded. The ship's AI interrupted their discussion with a priority alert. A massive solar flare was heading toward Earth, one that would devastate their communication systems and potentially cause widespread power failures. The observation team prepared to document what they assumed would be a crisis. But even before the flare hit, their instruments detected thousands of power grids being preventively adjusted, satellites being repositioned, and emergency systems being activated. The humans had seen it coming and were adapting, using predictive models that shouldn't have been possible with their level of technology. How did they? Kex began. They jury-rigged their primitive weather satellites to create an early warning system, Naira explained, her patterns shifting to indicate both admiration and disbelief. "It shouldn't work, but they don't know that," Vielon finished. She had made her decision. "Send a message to Central Command. Tell them I'm invoking Article 7 of the First Contact Protocols." Both Kex and Naira stared at her in shock. Article 7 was rarely used, it allowed contact with pre-galactic civilizations if they demonstrated exceptional potential or faced immediate existential threats. They're not ready, Kex protested. Their society is fragmented, their technology inconsistent, their methods chaotic. Exactly, Vielon interrupted. And that's precisely why we need to contact them now. They're not ready by our standards, but they're doing it anyway. And succeeding. The question isn't whether they're ready for us. She turned to face her crew, her tendrils arranged in what humans would have recognized as a smile. The question is, are we ready for them? As if to emphasize her point, their instruments detected a new human innovation. They had just developed a more efficient solar panel by accidentally combining quantum computing with a child science fair project. Send the message, Vielon ordered. And add a personal note, prepare for the unexpected. These humans, they're going to change everything we think we know about civilization. The crew watched as the solar flare hit Earth's atmosphere, creating spectacular auroras. Below them, millions of humans stood outside despite official warnings, using their primitive mobile devices to photograph the lights in the sky. Some of those photos would capture a strange crystalline reflection in orbit, leading to excited speculation on what humans called social media. The age of isolation was ending. Earth was about to meet its first aliens, and the galaxy was about to meet its match. The timing couldn't have been worse. Or perhaps, Vielon reflected, watching the massive tsunami approach the Pacific coast, it couldn't have been more perfect to understand humanity. We should delay contact, Kex insisted, his scales flickering between anxiety purple and resignation gray. Their attention will be focused on the disaster. Protocol suggests. Protocol, Vielon interrupted, was written for logical species. She gestured at the holographic displays surrounding them, showing scenes from across Earth's Pacific Rim. Look at them. The displays showed countless scenes unfolding simultaneously. In Japan, bullet trains were being converted into emergency supply transport. In the Philippines, fishermen were heading out to sea, toward the danger, to help stranded vessels. Along the American coast, civilian drone operators were linking their devices into impromptu search and rescue networks. Fascinating, Naira murmured, her bioluminescence pulsing with each new data point. They're not even waiting for official instructions. Every human who thinks they can help is, just helping. 372 independent rescue operations have started, the ship's AI reported. No central coordination. Efficiency should be minimal, yet. The AI paused, something it rarely did. They're achieving 89% coverage of affected areas through emergent cooperation. Vielon made her decision. We're initiating contact now. During a crisis. Kex's scales shifted to pure alarm crimson. During a crisis, Vielon confirmed. Because that's when they're most themselves. The eternal curiosity decloaked above Seattle, its crystalline structure catching the morning sun in a display that briefly turned the overcast sky into a kaleidoscope of color. The ship's AI had selected this location based on thousands of simulated scenarios, a tech hub city currently mobilizing for tsunami relief. The human response was, uniquely human. Are they? Keck stared at the data streams in disbelief. Are they posting memes about us? Simultaneously with evacuation procedures, yes, Naira confirmed. And they're already incorporating our ship into their emergency response plans. Several drone operators are asking if our vessel can provide high-altitude surveillance for rescue operations. But we haven't even made official contact yet, Kex protested. They don't know they're supposed to wait, Vielon said, that now familiar mix of exasperation and admiration in her voice. Initiate landing sequence. And, accept their request for surveillance assistance. The ship descended as thousands of smartphones captured the moment. Below, emergency response teams continued their work, now with added commentary about their new alien overlords better having good insurance coverage. News helicopters divided their attention between covering the approaching tsunami and documenting the alien landing, their pilot somehow managing to do both jobs effectively. The landing ramp extended into the parking lot of what humans called the Space Needle, chosen for its symbolic value and high ground location. V'Elan led her contact team down the ramp, their environmental suits designed to appear as non-threatening as possible. They were met by a mixed group of emergency response officials, scientists, and what appeared to be local food truck operators who had simply refused to evacuate. "Welcome to Earth," a woman in a FEMA jacket said, somehow managing to sound both professionally courteous and incredibly rushed. "I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, and I apologize, but we're about to have a rather wet situation. How good are you with search and rescue?" V'Elan's translator took a moment to process the casual directness of the question. Before she could respond, her ship's AI announced that it had already integrated with local emergency networks and was providing real-time mapping of the approaching wave. "Oh, thank God," Dr. Chen said, checking her tablet. "Look, we can do formal introductions later. Right now, we've got about 20 minutes before that wave hits, and I've got 300 people still in the evacuation zone. Your ship's got better eyes than our satellites. Want to help save some lives?" V'Elan looked at her team, then back at the human woman who was already coordinating with her team as if working with aliens was something she did every Tuesday. Every protocol, every first contact procedure, every carefully prepared speech seemed rather meaningless in the face of such pragmatic necessity. "We would be honored," V'Elan said. What followed was a crash course in human crisis management. The aliens watched in amazement as humans simultaneously dealt with an incoming tsunami, historic first contact, and someone trying to sell, "I met aliens during a natural disaster and all I got was this lousy t-shirt, shirts online." Their ship's superior technology seamlessly integrated into the emergency response network, guided by humans who treated advanced alien tech with the same casual appreciation they gave to their smartphones. Someone had even started a Twitter thread rating the efficiency of different rescue teams, somehow turning disaster response into a competitive sport. "They're using our presence as motivation," Naira observed, watching as rescue teams raced to clear zones before the wave hit. "They've turned it into a game, let's show the aliens what humans can do." The tsunami struck with devastating force, but the combined human-alien response had ensured minimal loss of life. As the waters receded, V'Elan watched humans immediately shift into recovery mode, their resilience showing in every action. "Chief Observer," the ship's AI interrupted her thoughts, "I'm detecting thousands of social media posts asking if we'd like to join something called a disaster relief potluck this evening. Apparently, it's traditional to celebrate survival with communal food sharing." "They're planning a party?" Kex asked incredulously. "No. No," Dr. Chen corrected, overhearing as she coordinated recovery efforts. "We're planning a potluck. It's completely different. You guys eat, right? I make a mean disaster chili. Been perfecting the recipe through 3 earthquakes and a volcanic eruption." V'Elan's translator suggested that "mean" in this context was positive, though the concept of perfecting food recipes through successive disasters was uniquely human. "We would be honored," V'Elan said again, beginning to understand why every alien species that had ever observed Earth had left warning messages about human unpredictability. They were impossible to prepare for, difficult to understand, and somehow endearing in their chaos. As evening fell, the smell of what humans called comfort food filled emergency shelters across Seattle. Humans and aliens shared meals while swapping stories and making plans for tomorrow. Someone had already created an app to coordinate alien-human disaster response teams. "You know," Dr. Chen said, watching V'Elan try to navigate eating chili with tentacles, "most species would probably wait until after the disaster to make first contact." "We're beginning to understand," V'Elan replied, "that with humans, there is always another disaster, another challenge, another reason to wait. You never let that stop you." "Nope," Chen grinned, passing V'Elan what she called a napkin. "That's kind of our thing. Welcome to Earth. Hope you like chaos." The hegemony warships appeared 3 weeks after first contact, their massive black holes blotting out the stars above Earth's major cities. While most species would have panicked at the sight of the galaxy's most notorious expansionist empire, humanity's response was different. They do realize they're positioning themselves perfectly for us to study their tech, right? Dr. Chen asked, sharing a late-night coffee with V.A. Lon in Seattle's makeshift Alien-Human Coordination Center. Our amateur astronomers are having a field day. V.A. Lon's tendrils twisted in concern. Sarah, the hegemony has conquered 12 star systems. Their technology is centuries ahead of Earth's. Yeah, but have they ever dealt with K-pop fans? Sarah grinned, showing V.A. Lon her phone. Somehow, humans had already created multiple fan accounts for different hegemony ships, ranking them by aesthetics and villain energy. Before V.A. Lon could respond, the hegemony's message boomed across Earth's communication channels. Primitive world, you have been claimed by the eternal hegemony. Your association with the Arxeans is hereby terminated. Submit to our authority or face extinction. The response came not from Earth's governments, but from millions of individuals. Within hours, humans had remixed the threat into music videos, created memes comparing the hegemony to various fictional villains, and somehow managed to hack one of the warship's external lighting systems to play "Never Gonna Give You Up" in Morse code. What is rickrolling? Kex asked, studying the human internet's response. And why is it considered a superior form of warfare? Psychological warfare, Naira corrected, her bioluminescence flickering with amusement. They're demonstrating that they don't fear the hegemony by making them objects of entertainment. The hegemony, unsurprisingly, didn't appreciate Earth's sense of humor. Their next message was accompanied by a demonstration of power, a beam of energy that carved a 20-mile crater in the Sahara Desert. Earth's official response was a unified declaration of defiance. The unofficial response was more creative. They're doing what? Supreme Commander Zith of the hegemony demanded, watching as thousands of small objects approached his fleet. They appear to be civilian space telescopes, his advisor reported, bewildered. Modified with surplus tsunami warning system parts and, is that coffee machine technology? The makeshift observation network, hastily assembled by amateur astronomers and budding engineers, began mapping every detail of the hegemony ships. Each vulnerability, each blind spot, was immediately shared on what humans called open-source intelligence networks. Meanwhile, grandmother blogs began sharing recipes that, when modified, could dissolve the specific alloy used in hegemony hull plating. Street artists created murals that, viewed from orbit, interfered with hegemony targeting systems. A group of teenagers in Bangladesh figured out how to use multiplayer gaming servers to coordinate global defense strategies. This isn't how planetary defense is supposed to work, Kex muttered, watching as humans systematically stripped away the hegemony's technological advantages through what they called crowdsourcing. That's humanity's secret, V.A. Lon replied. They don't know how things are supposed to work, so they find ways that shouldn't work but do. The hegemony's frustration grew as their usual tactics failed. Their psychological warfare was turned into memes. Their attempts at dividing humanity were met with increasingly united and creative responses. Their superior technology was countered by solutions so absurd they had no defense against them. They've weaponized interpretive dance, a hegemony analyst reported, watching as flash mobs performed movements that, from orbit, created interference patterns with their sensors. And someone called Grandma Rose has posted a recipe for cookies that exactly matches the resonance frequency of our shield generators. Supreme Commander Zith watched in growing horror as Earth's chaotic defense made his carefully planned invasion look increasingly foolish. The final straw came when Earth's hackers, working through that game called Minecraft, of all things, managed to send a virus that made all hegemony ship announcements speak in what humans called doo-woo speech. How? Zith demanded during an emergency conference with V.A. Lon. How are they doing this? They shouldn't even be able to understand our technology, let alone counter it. You're assuming they understand it, V.A. Lon replied, her tendrils arranged in what she'd learned was a human smirk. They don't. They just try things until something works. Do you know what their scientists call this method? Fucking around and finding out. The hegemony's retreat began 3 days later, hastened by the discovery that humans had somehow turned their entire internet into a weapon. Every hegemony communication system was flooded with what they called cat videos and dad jokes. Should we pursue? Naira asked, watching the massive warships flee. Absolutely not, Vielon replied. Let them go spread the word. Earth is not to be invaded, not because they're too strong or too advanced, but because they're too weird. Keck suggested. Creative, Vielon corrected. Though weird works too. In the aftermath, Earth's nations began incorporating their newfound unity and creativity into more peaceful pursuits. The same networks that had coordinated defense now tackled climate change, poverty, and disease. The same grandmothers who had developed hull-dissolving recipes now shared actual cookies with alien diplomats. You know what the really scary part is? Sarah said one evening, sharing another coffee with Vielon. We weren't even trying that hard. Most of us were still focused on tsunami recovery and making alien memes. Vielon's tendrils twitched. You mean you can be even more chaotic? Sarah's grin was all the answer she needed. The galaxy, Vielon realized, had no idea what it was in for. Earth wasn't just joining the galactic community, it was about to turn it upside down, probably while live streaming the whole thing and setting it to catchy music. The Galactic Council's emergency session was interrupted by what humans called lo-fi beats to invade Earth playing through every speaker system in the vast chamber. The source was traced to a teenager in Seoul who, working with a collective of street artists in Sao Paulo and a quantum computing club in Lagos, had turned the entire galactic communication network into what they called a collaborative playlist. That shouldn't be possible, the council's chief security officer insisted, mandibles clicking in distress. Their technology isn't advanced enough to. You're still thinking in terms of advancement, Vielon interrupted. She stood before the council as Earth's appointed advocate, her tendrils arranged in what she now knew humans called a "done with this nonsense" expression. Humans don't advance. They leap sideways. The evidence was undeniable. In the month since the hegemony's retreat, humanity had taken their defensive innovations and turned them into something entirely new. The grandmother blog network that had decoded hegemony hull compositions was now revolutionizing galactic cuisine. The teenage hackers who had coordinated Earth's defense through game servers were redesigning faster-than-light communication protocols, mostly, they claimed, to reduce lag in multiplayer games. But they're not following any established development patterns, a council member protested. They're combining technologies that shouldn't work together. Like using a pizza oven's heat distribution principles to improve spacecraft shielding? Vielon asked. Or modifying social media algorithms to predict solar flares? Yes, that's exactly what they're doing. And it's working. The council chamber's holographic displays showed scenes from across Earth. In Mumbai, classical dance performers were collaborating with physicists to develop new models of quantum entanglement based on traditional rhythm patterns. A group of indigenous Australian astronomers had combined dreamtime navigation techniques with advanced stellar cartography, creating maps that made existing star charts look primitive. This morning, Vielon continued, a grandmother in Michigan accidentally solved a 1,000-year-old mathematical problem while trying to optimize her cookie recipe for alien digestive systems. She posted it on something called Pinterest. The council's AI confirmed that the solution was elegant, revolutionary, and somehow included a recommendation for substituting butter with applesauce for a healthier version. In Mexico City, a collective of street artists had developed a new form of data visualization that turned complex scientific concepts into intuitive murals. Their work was now being used to teach advanced physics in schools across 3 galaxies. The artists were mainly concerned with whether their color choices properly captured the aesthetic of quantum uncertainty. The truly remarkable thing, Naira added, her bioluminescent patterns dancing with excitement, is how they're sharing everything. No patents, no secrets, they're posting it all on what they call open-source networks. The council watched as a video went viral across Earth, a collaboration between a Maasai warrior, a K-pop choreographer, and a Canadian ice hockey team, demonstrating spacecraft maneuvering techniques through dance and sports moves. It had already been adapted into training programs by 12 different species. They're treating galactic civilization like a potluck, Kex realized, using the human term he'd learned during the tsunami response. Everyone brings what they have, shares it freely, and somehow the combination works better than any single approach. The council's proceedings were again interrupted, this time by an alert from their strategic analysis AI. It had detected a pattern in Earth's seemingly random innovations. They were systematically, if unintentionally, solving problems that had plagued galactic civilization for millennia. Not solving, Vielon corrected. Redefining. Humans don't see barriers between disciplines, between cultures, or between the possible and impossible. They take joy in crossing lines that other species don't even see. A new transmission arrived from Earth. A group of children in Bangalore had just invented a new form of mathematics while playing hopscotch. Their game incorporated elements of classical Indian dance, computer coding, and what they called playground logic. The council's top mathematicians were simultaneously baffled and enlightened. "This is chaos," the council had declared. "This is humanity," Vielon responded. "They've turned their entire planet into an innovation engine, powered by curiosity, creativity, and what they call vibes. They're not advancing toward some goal, they're exploring in every direction simultaneously." The council chambers filled with more human transmissions, a Moroccan fusion chef collaborating with spacecraft engineers on atmospheric processor designs, Argentine tango dancers working with quantum physicists on particle interaction models, and a group of Norwegian black metal musicians whose compositions accidentally described a new theory of universal harmony. "We should be terrified," a council member observed. "We should be inspired," Vielon corrected. "They're showing us possibilities we never imagined, not because they're more advanced, but because they never learned what was supposed to be impossible." As if to prove her point, a new alert came through. Someone had just posted a life hack video that inadvertently solved the problem of faster-than-light travel. The creator was mainly concerned that the background music in their video might be copyrighted. "The galaxy has two choices," Vielon concluded. "We can try to make humanity follow our established patterns, which they will cheerfully ignore while inventing new forms of physics through interpretive dance, or we can embrace their chaos and see what wonders it brings." The council's decision was interrupted by another global transmission from Earth. They had organized what they called a Galactic Cultural Festival, inviting species from across the universe to share their art, science, food, and ideas. The invitation ended with a note that while formal diplomatic attire was welcome, they were also cool with whatever anyone wanted to wear, and yes, there would be snacks. Vielon's tendrils arranged themselves in what had become her favorite expression, resigned amusement. Humanity wasn't just joining galactic civilization, they were reorganizing it into something new, something more vibrant, more creative, and infinitely more interesting. And they were doing it all while posting memes about it. 1 year after first contact, Vielon stood before the Galactic Council again, presenting her final report on Earth's integration into galactic society. The chamber's holographic displays showed scenes from across the galaxy, all bearing humanity's unmistakable influence. In conclusion, she said, her tendrils arranged in what humans called a proud parent pose, attempting to classify Earth using our traditional metrics has proven impossible. They've created 17 new scientific disciplines, most of them accidentally. They've solved 33 unsolvable problems, largely through what they call shower thoughts and procrastination breakthroughs. The council chamber itself reflected humanity's impact. The once austere space now featured a collaborative art wall, where different species shared their interpretations of galactic events. Someone, likely the teenage hackers from Seoul, had added a vibe lighting system that adjusted to match the emotional tone of discussions. More significantly, Vallon continued, they fundamentally altered how galactic civilization approaches innovation. The human concept of free sharing has led to what they call a galaxy-wide open source community. Kex, now Earth's cultural liaison, pulled up the latest statistics. Their Galactic GitHub platform has over 10 billion users from 3,000 species. The most popular repository is still cool space stuff that probably works. Probably, a council member asked. That's part of their methodology, Naira explained, her bioluminescence pulsing with amusement. They've turned uncertainty into a feature, not a bug. Their favorite debugging tool is something called putting it out there and seeing what happens. The displays showed more examples of humanity's influence, hegemony worship, now converted into a traveling arts and science festival space. A former military AI that had discovered a passion for writing interspecies soap operas. A group of traditionally isolationist crystal beings who had become popular streamers after humans introduced them to the concept of unboxing videos for their reproduction process. But perhaps most revolutionary, Vallon said, is their introduction of what they call the vibes-based approach to galactic diplomacy. The Council had experienced this firsthand. Traditional diplomatic protocols had been largely replaced by what humans called getting together and sorting things out. Intergalactic disputes were now often resolved through cultural exchanges, collaborative art projects, and what humans termed throwing a sick party. The Hegemony Supreme Commander Zith, Vallon noted, recently attended a space rave organized by those same teenagers who hacked their ships. He's now a regular DJ at Galactic peace conferences. The displays showed Zith, his formal military uniform now adorned with glow sticks, performing what humans called a sick beat drop at the latest diplomatic summit. The track, titled Beats to Sign Peace Treaties To, had gone viral across 12 galaxies. Humanity's influence extends beyond mere technology in diplomacy, Vallon continued. They've introduced concepts that are reshaping galactic society, weekend vibes, doing it for the lols, and perhaps most transformatively, just wing it. The Council's AI interrupted with its daily report on human innovations. A group of surfers in Hawaii had revolutionized spacecraft design by applying wave dynamics. A knitting circle in Edinburgh had unlocked the secrets of DNA manipulation through pattern recognition. A food truck in Mexico City had accidentally achieved cold fusion while trying to perfect their salsa recipe. The galaxy, Vallon concluded, is becoming more like Earth, Messier, more creative, more connected, and infinitely more interesting. They've taught us that progress doesn't have to follow a straight line, it can dance, laugh, take selfies, and stop for snacks along the way. The council chambers erupted in what humans would call good vibes, as Vallon shared her final recommendation: Earth should be classified in a new category, one that acknowledged their unique role in galactic civilization. I propose, she said, we classify them as humanity, chaotic good, approach with wonder. The motion passed unanimously, accompanied by a soundtrack courtesy of Earth's newest cultural export, a collaboration between classical musicians, quantum physicists, and what humans called TikTok creators. As Vallon left the council chambers, her communicator pinged with a message from Sarah Chin. The Tsunami Response Center in Seattle had evolved into an intergalactic cultural exchange hub, and they were planning a potluck to celebrate the one-year anniversary of First Contact. Bring snacks, Sarah wrote. And maybe warn the council that we're thinking of starting a galactic talent show. You know, for science. Vallon's tendrils arranged themselves in what had become a very human eye roll, even as she felt what humans called excitement. The galaxy would never be the same, and that was exactly what it needed. In orbit above Earth, the Eternal Curiosity's AI updated its First Contact protocols with a new primary directive: when in doubt, vibe with it. It was perhaps the most profound scientific advancement in galactic history, delivered in the form of a meme. Somewhere in Seattle, a barista was explaining mochachinos to a group of crystalline beings while a street artist tagged the side of a faster-than-light drive with glow-in-the-dark paint. Just another day on Earth, the planet that had turned galactic civilization upside down and taught the universe how to dance. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly the point.